There are a number of approaches that are being explored to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and mitigate the impacts of climate change. Some of these approaches involve removing CO2 directly from the atmosphere and storing it in a way that prevents it from being re-released. Carbon capture and storage involves capturing CO2 emissions from large stationary sources, such as power plants or industrial facilities, and storing them in underground formations. These formations could include saline aquifers, oil and gas reservoirs, or unminable coal seams. The CO2 is typically injected into the formation at a depth of several thousand feet, where it is trapped by the surrounding rock and is not able to escape. Carbon dioxide removal technologies involve the direct removal of CO2 from the atmosphere and its subsequent storage. Examples of CDR technologies include afforestation and reforestation, which involve planting trees and other vegetation that absorbs CO2 as they grow, soil carbon sequestration, which involves sequestering CO2 in soil through practices such as composting or cover cropping, and direct air capture, which involves using specialized machines to directly capture CO2 from the atmosphere. Ocean sequestration involves storing CO2 in the ocean by injecting it into deep ocean water, where it is absorbed by the ocean and eventually becomes part of the carbon cycle. This approach is still in the early stages of research and development, and there are concerns about its potential impacts on marine ecosystems. Carbon utilization involves converting CO2 into a useful product, such as a chemical feedstock or a fuel. This approach has the potential to reduce the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere while also generating economic benefits. However, carbon utilization technologies are still in the early stages of development, and it is not yet clear which approaches will be the most viable or scalable. Carbon offsetting involves reducing or removing an equivalent amount of CO2 elsewhere to offset emissions from a particular activity. For example, an individual or organization that is responsible for emitting a certain amount of CO2 could purchase carbon offsets, such as credits from a renewable energy project, to offset their emissions. Carbon offsetting is often used as a voluntary or compliance mechanism to help reduce emissions, but it is not a substitute for reducing emissions at their source. Carbon pricing, such as a carbon tax or a cap-and-trade system, involves setting a price on carbon emissions in order to encourage the reduction of emissions. Carbon pricing can provide a financial incentive for individuals, businesses, and governments to reduce their emissions and invest in low-carbon technologies. By setting a price on carbon, it may be possible to reduce emissions and incentivize the development and deployment of carbon storage and other low-carbon technologies. Overall, carbon storage is an important approach for reducing CO2 in the atmosphere and mitigating the impacts of climate change. By implementing a combination of approaches, such as carbon capture and storage, carbon dioxide removal technologies, carbon utilization, carbon offsetting, and carbon pricing, it may be possible to significantly reduce CO2 emissions and create a more sustainable and low-carbon future. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to support us. See you in our next video.